Hey everybody, welcome into the Alabama Recruiting Show. I'm Hannah Chalker alongside SEC Country's Crimson Tide reporter, Chris Kirschner. Thanks for joining us today. We have an awesome show lined up for you today, including a very special guest that'll be joining us very momentarily. But first, Chris, big week in Alabama recruiting, right?
Yes, very big week. 2 commitments for Alabama, 3-star running back Jerome Ford, 4-star cornerback Josh Jobe. Both of those guys took official visits to Alabama this weekend. Both of them decided to join the Crimson Tide, and both are planning to sign early on December 20th. Big-time recruiting victories for Alabama this weekend.
All right, well, our guest is going to join us right now. That's Jordan Davis, the outside linebacker commit from Memphis, Tennessee. He is Skyping in. And Jordan, how you doing?
Real good.
Thanks so much for joining us. That's so awesome. I know that you've been committed to the Tide for, a year now, but early signing period this week, December 20th through 22nd. How excited are you to finally get your name on that dotted line?
Hey, it's roll tide all the way. I mean, been committed for a year, for a real long time, and people always ask me, how do you do it? How do you keep that commitment for so long? And I mean, that's just staying loyal to the dynasty. And that's just one thing I want to build my own legacy, build my own brand towards that. So I'm just ready to get this signing day over with, sign them dotted lines, then get to work.
Jordan, I think nowadays, a lot of people, when they're committed for so long, they open it up, they take other visits. Why didn't you go that route?
Because I think when I first took the visit, I knew it was something there. I knew home was there. Something told me that home was there. And after constantly taking visits after visits down there, I really felt real comfortable with it. And then, especially after the Iron Bowl, once I made my decision, I knew there wasn't going to be no disloyalty, no opening up my recruitment or anything of that nature. So I knew from the jump that it was going to be 1,000 with Alabama, because I knew everything they were telling me wasn't just them giving me a dream or them just selling me a dream. So that's how I put it. I mean, it wasn't no other disloyalties, none of that. I mean, that's just how I kept it 100 with them. They kept it 100 with me. So I kept my commitment all the way in.
I think it was last week you tweeted that your recruitment was 100% over with. Alabama was the school that you were going to be signing with. What went into your decision to go ahead and just tell the world that you were going to be signing with Alabama? Were other schools coming after you? Is that the reason why you decided to tweet that?
Yes, that's one of the reasons. And two, because just thinking and talking it over with my friends and family, and everybody kept on asking me, so Jordan, are you still going to visit other places? I mean, I wanted to get it confirmed that I was solid with Bama, and I guess just saying it and just tweeting it and going everywhere telling everybody that I'm just committed wasn't getting through people's heads. So that's when I had to lay it down on the line and just tell them that, hey, it's over with. I want to go to Bama. I want to finish I want to do my whole 4 years at Bama.
Which other schools were coming after you toward the end of the process?
It's a list. It's a list, but I can't give you at least 2 of them. 2 of them was Tennessee. One was Tennessee, Coach Pruitt, Oregon, LSU, Florida, Mississippi State, and a lot more others. They came very hard.
I know a lot of times when there's a coaching change with Alabama losing defensive coordinator Jeremy Pruitt, a lot of the times recruits look elsewhere. How did Pruitt leaving Alabama affect you, if at all?
It didn't affect me at all, to be honest. It didn't really affect me at all because me and Coach Pruitt, we talk from time to time, and I mostly did my recruiting with Coach Penizia, a real good friend of mine, a real good coach of mine, and a real good mentor, and especially Coach Luke. So I had my relationship between them 2 coaches. So Coach Pruitt leaving, Coach Pruitt, he's a real good coach. He speaks a lot of life into me and my mom and my little brother, but I believe that it didn't really affect me at all. And then one thing I really believe, and one thing I would like to tell all the recruits, you don't go to the school because of the coaches, you go because of the program. And then that's one reason I committed to the school, because I love the program and I love how they built their players.
You visited Tuscaloosa several times this year. When you go to Tuscaloosa, What is that feeling like when you see all those fans, you see all the lights light up? What is that feeling like for you?
All I can say is just roll tide. I'm just ready to get down there, put in the work, and put in the work to say that I did something good in my life, and to put on for my city, put on for Memphis, because people say if you from Memphis, you're not going D1, you're not going to the league. And there's just one thing that motivated me, just all the people down me, and all the people down to me and my teammates. So I plan on getting up there to Alabama, doing what I got to do so I can prove the city wrong, prove the whole state wrong, prove the whole country wrong.
When you get to Alabama as a freshman, what do you want to accomplish? Do you want to be a freshman All-American, or is it something else that you want to get done?
I mean, I kind of put that in God's hands, because whatever God placed me with, wherever He set me with, whatever He labeled me as, I'm just gonna go on with the flow. But of course, every player wants to be their freshman All-American, but sometimes it takes time to be their All-American. Sometimes you're going to have to put in the work. And one thing, I'm not just focused on the athletic part. I'm really working on the degree part, earning my education part, because my mom always told me, you got to get your books before you get on the field, because the field can end anytime. And that's just one thing I'm focused on. So once I get down there, my dreams are, yes, to be a freshman All-American, but at the beginning, I want to become a scholar student my freshman year, so I won't have to worry at the end about any of them education problems.
You're going to be playing in the Under Armour All-American game here in January. Lots of other recruits, top recruits, are going to be in Orlando. Is there anybody in particular who you're looking to go up against, and who are some guys in Orlando that you're hoping to get in the ears of them and hopefully make them go to Alabama?
That's a good question. That's a real good question. Competition-wise, as you know, I'm committed to Bama, #1 school. So competition-wise, I'm not afraid. Anybody can get it. So once I get on that field, it's dogging everybody. Particular players of one of just now is Justin Ross, my guy from Alabama. I think he'll play a real good role in the Alabama offense, just because his strength and how he can use his body up in the air. But there's just one main guy that I really talk to. There's a list of others, but Ross is that's my #1 guy I'm going to go after down there.
Jordan, I got a few quick questions left for you. What kind of things has Nick Saban said to you?
Character, and one main thing that I want to let recruits know is when Nick Saban hit you with the and but speech. And going into this speech, I mean, once you get into the draft, or having somebody describe you in your life, or hey, people come up to you, hey, how is Jordan? If they hit you with the and, that's a good thing. But if they hit you with the but, that's the bad thing. So Nick Saban, he always tell me, if I hit you with the but, you might want to worry. So, but when I hit you with the and, just keep grinding. So there's just one speech I always remember from him. There's just one important speech that I'm going to continue remembering from him, and
awesome.
Expect from him.
Awesome stuff, Jordan. My last question for you is, early signing period, just a few days away. What are your predictions on some other top recruits that Alabama may get to join you here in the upcoming class?
Well, I ain't going to say no names. I'm going to keep my mouth closed. But I just want to let y'all know y'all in for real big recruits. Some real big ones, some real ones that you wouldn't even expect. But I believe we're going to get at least good 4 or 5. So it'll be coming to theaters near you. So I can't tell you that.
All right, I guess we'll just have to wait.
Yeah.
Oh, what a cliffhanger there, Jordan.
Very big cliffhanger.
All right, thanks so much for joining us. And what day do you plan on signing, and what time again?
On Wednesday, December 20th at Southwind High School Library at 9 o'clock.
All right, everybody, we'll be looking out for it. Thanks so much, Jordan. We appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. Awesome stuff from Jordan Davis, outside linebacker from Memphis, Tennessee. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to Jordan several times before. He's such a really nice guy. I expect big things for Davis. I've seen him play several times this year in camp settings, and every time that I've seen him in person, he's just grown his game to such a high level. When he committed to Alabama last December, I honestly had no idea who Jordan Davis was. I mean, he had a few offers, Louisville, Memphis, but since that time he committed, he's grown into one of the top 100 players in the country, an Under Armour All-American. So it's definitely a big win for Alabama to get this guy on board, just because of not only is he a good player, but he's also been arguably the top vocal leader of this class, and you need a few guys like that.
Yeah, nobody might have known his name then, but everybody knows his name now, so that was awesome stuff. Well, he isn't the only win for Alabama this week. They signed two other guys last week in Josh Jobe, Jerome Ford. Tell us about those two commits.
Yeah, Jerome Ford, he's been Alabama's top running back target, pretty much since Asa Martin committed to Auburn, the four-star prospect, in-state guy. After he committed to Auburn, Alabama really focused on Jerome Ford. Ford visited Tuscaloosa in the summer, and he was one of the standouts from that camp. He ran a 4.41 40-yard dash. It was the fastest time at Alabama's camp this summer. So not only is he a strong physical guy, but he's going to make some guys miss in that backfield, and it's just another big time win for Alabama on the recruiting trail, just because Alabama is pretty much known for its running back success, and I think Jerome Ford is going to carry that over. Now on the defensive side of the ball, Josh Jobe, four-star cornerback from Miami. Another gigantic win for Alabama. When we look at the secondary next year for Alabama, it's going to be very, very thin. Alabama's going to lose Anthony Averett, Levi Wallace, Tony Brown, Hootie Jones, and not to mention Minkah Fitzpatrick and Ronnie Harrison could decide to declare for the NFL draft too. So to get a guy like Josh Jobe, who in my opinion will definitely compete for early playing time, it's a big win for Alabama. And not only that, I mean, they flipped him from Miami. He's been committed to Miami for 2 years, decided to flip from Miami to Alabama this past weekend. So anytime you can flip a guy like that to your class, it's a big win, just because other recruits say, why did you decide to flip your commitment from a school you've been committed to for over 2 years? And that's what Jobe was to Miami. He's from Miami. I've talked to Jobe several times. He's told me that there's been a lot of pressure on him to remain home and play for the Hurricanes, and that's not going to happen. Jobe is going to be signing with Alabama on Wednesday.
Well, that's just the beginning for the Crimson Tide. We're just 2 days away from the early signing period. What are some other names that people need to know? What can we expect out of this brand new early signing period? A lot of people had no idea what to expect, and it's actually been more hype than I even thought it was going to be.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely going to be a busy few days for Alabama. It's currently 16 commitments. 13 of them are planning on signing during these next few days. The early signing period begins on Wednesday and lasts through Friday. The only commitments right now who are not planning to sign early would be 4-star linebacker Quay Walker, 3-star linebacker Vernon Jackson, and 3-star tight end Michael Parker. In Parker's case, it's not really a matter of him not wanting to sign early. He wants to sign early, but Alabama is still deciding on whether or not Michael Parker, an in-state kid, will either get a blue shirt or gray shirt. That's still to be decided. So he's not going to be signing early for that reason. As far as Walker and Jackson, Walker, he's still mulling things over. Auburn's still trying to get him to flip his commitment. It remains to be seen if that's going to happen. I personally don't think it's going to happen. From talking to people close to the program and from talking to Walker these past few weeks, it seems like he's more locked into Alabama than what we thought. Now, as far as Vernon Jackson goes, he's from Texas. Those in-state schools are trying to flip him from Alabama. Texas A&M was supposed to host him on an official visit this past weekend. He did not take that visit, so that's good news for Alabama. It's obviously possible that he could take it at a later date. The dead period begins I think tonight. I think it's December 18th. If it's December 18th, the dead period begins tonight and lasts through January 12th. So all official visits won't happen until after January 12th, which is when Jackson could take that visit to Texas A&M. He's planning on taking an official visit to Alabama on January 19th. Now, as far as uncommitted guys or guys who may flip their commitments, Brenton Cox, 5-star defensive end, he's going to make his decision on ESPNU at 3 p.m. He's deciding between Alabama and Georgia. From talking to people, it seems like Alabama definitely has a good chance there. Emory Jones, 4-star quarterback, he will make his final decision on Wednesday at 11:30. So there are lots of names to go on these next few days.
Speaking of Emory Jones, the Ohio State quarterback commit, Alabama looked to be poised to flip him, but that's not really the case anymore. Actually, Florida is kind of getting into the mix. He took his official visits to Gainesville and actually Florida State as well. His mom joined him there at FSU. She was not at the Florida trip, but there was video of him, full Gator uniform, the orange and blue. Why has Alabama lost momentum with Emory Jones?
Yeah, I think, like you said, you just mentioned it, those official visits this past weekend. He took one to Florida on Friday, I believe. Florida, their quarterback situation is really not that great. They have Felipe Franks, they have Kyle Trask, but Emory Jones really just fits Dan Mullen's offense, and he's the quarterback that Dan Mullen likes to have. Big body guy, dual threat prospect, can throw the ball, can run the ball. And I think Florida right now is probably considered the favorite to land Emory when he makes his final decision on Wednesday. I talked to someone close to the Alabama program last night. It seems like the confidence on Alabama's end is pretty much at zero right now. And again, like you mentioned, Alabama was poised to flip Emory Jones. There's several points. He's taken multiple visits to Tuscaloosa this year. And it seemed like he was going to be the quarterback of Alabama's 2018 class. I wrote back in March that it was going to be very, very difficult for Alabama to land a top signal caller. Just because when you look at Alabama's depth chart at quarterback, it's very young. Jalen Hurts, a sophomore, Tua Tagovailoa and Mac Jones, both freshmen. So if you're a 2018 quarterback who's as highly ranked as Jones is, when you look at that depth chart, it's really not that appealing for early playing time. And it's not something that Jones really wanted. He was planning on signing with Ohio State for several months, and he was comfortable redshirting. He was going into Ohio State with the mindset that, yeah, I'm probably not going to be able to play right away, but that's okay. I'll wait my turn. So I really don't know what happened between Alabama and Emory Jones. It seems like this visit to Florida really changed things up, and Alabama has pretty much conceded his recruitment, and Alabama is going to move on to another in-state kid in James Foster, a 4-star prospect. He was once committed to Missouri. He grew up a big-time Alabama fan. Alabama is his dream school. SEC Country actually talked to James Foster last week. He's down to 4 schools: Alabama, Florida State, Texas A&M, and LSU. I think Alabama has a good chance at landing James Foster. Like I said, it's his dream school, so we'll see what happens. But losing out on Emory Jones is definitely a blow for Alabama.
Also, 4-star linebacker J.J. Peterson, he seems to be trending away from Alabama as well. Chris, what's the status on him?
Yeah, definitely not good news for Alabama with J.J. Peterson, long-time target of Alabama's. Alabama has pretty much been his leader since the start of 2017. Things changed, though, when Jeremy Pruitt left. Very close to Jeremy Pruitt, his coach at Colquitt County, Rush Propst. Jeremy Pruitt was Rush Propst's defensive coordinator when both of them were at Hoover High School. Probst and Pruitt are very good friends. There's talk that Pruitt may actually hire Rush Probst to be a part of Tennessee's staff and make him an on-field coach. That's still in the works right now. But yeah, I spoke to J.J. Peterson this past Friday at a state championship game, and he told me that once Pruitt left, that definitely changed things for him. Tennessee has now taken over Alabama as his top school. He still hasn't visited Tennessee, but I know a lot of people were asking me, how can a kid say a school is his leader if he's never even visited them before? What I would say to that is J.J. Peterson's really not a normal recruit. He doesn't really really care about that. He doesn't care what uniforms you play in. He doesn't care what shoe company you have. He's really just focused on getting the work done and helping his team win. So even though he hasn't visited Knoxville before, it's really not that big of a deal. His relationship with Jeremy Pruitt and Kevin Shearer, who is Georgia's outside linebackers coach, who's now going to be Tennessee's defensive coordinator. Coach Shearer was actually recruiting J.J. Peterson at Georgia. So those are two coaches that he's very, very close with who are now at Tennessee. So Tennessee has definitely become a major threat for J.J. Peterson, but Nick Saban has taken a personal role in Peterson's recruitment. And Peterson told me that, if he continues to develop a strong relationship with Coach Saban, it's possible that Alabama ends up being the school he signs with on February 7th.
All right, Chris, one more question for you before we get to our fan questions on our Facebook Live, so get those questions rolling in. I see some good ones here that we'll get to in just a second. But when the week is over, most all of Alabama's top targets will have committed to the Tide, signed on the dotted line in this early signing period. Who's left?
Yeah, there are a few names out there for Alabama fans to know after this week. A couple 5 stars, 5-star cornerback Tyson Campbell, Patrick Surtain Jr., and Nicholas Petit-Frere. Those guys will be out there for Alabama. You look at the list here. James Foster, who we talked about, in-state kid. Tanner McKee, he's a 2020 prospect, essentially. He's in the class of 2018, but he's going to be taking a 2-year mission trip for his religion after he graduates from Centennial High School out in California. We already mentioned J.J. Peterson, looks like an Alabama-Tennessee race. Jordan Davis, who we talked with earlier tonight, he mentioned Justin Ross, big-time target for Alabama, likely going to decide between Alabama, Auburn, and Clemson on National Signing Day. From talking to people close to Alabama, it seems pretty confident with where it stands with Ross. And I know I've said on this show multiple times that Clemson seemed like a legit landing spot for Justin Ross, but over these past few weeks, Alabama has definitely gained confidence with Justin Ross. Jacob Copeland, he took an official visit to Tennessee this past weekend, another guy who is very, very close to Jeremy Pruitt. We'll see what happens there. Jalen Waddle, he was going to decide to sign early with whichever school he chose on December 20th. He decided that he wasn't ready to commit. Alabama and Texas A&M, likely the two schools that he's going to decide from whenever he makes his decision. He hasn't said exactly when he's going to commit yet. His decision can really come at any time. Tyler Friday, major defensive tackle target for Alabama. He took an official visit this past weekend. He actually told me that Alabama, Michigan, and Ohio State are definitely schools that are in his top 3. Christian Barmore took an official visit last week to Alabama. I think in the end, Christian Barmore decides to join Alabama. It's just a matter of when he actually wants to commit. Same goes for Malik Langham, in-state kid from the Huntsville area. I expect Alabama to land his commitment. Andreas Fox is another guy who's on this list. I think Alabama will have to miss on a few guys in order for Andreas Fox to get his committable offer back. Another guy who is closely connected with Jeremy Pruitt. Pruitt was Fox's primary recruiter. Once Pruitt left for Tennessee, there weren't many coaches left on Alabama's staff who felt as strongly about Fox than Pruitt. So it remains to be seen what's going to happen with Andreas Fox. But that list right there, those are the guys who are planning on waiting this out and will not be making their final decisions by the end of the week.
Okay, but even though besides them, this week is huge for Alabama, we've got some comments coming in on our Facebook Live status. Wanda Weathers, Jimmy Hughes both want to know how Alabama is ranked right now in the recruiting standings.
Yeah, after Alabama got 2 commitments this past weekend, Alabama entered the weekend ranked 9th. Alabama is now up to 7th. I expect Alabama to gain ground in the recruiting rankings by the end of the week. I forgot to mention Iyabi Anoma, a 5-star defensive end. He will be making his decision on Friday between Alabama, Michigan, and Maryland. So once you add a 5-star in the mix, you're definitely going to shoot up the rankings. I've said it all along, I still think Alabama is going to have a top 5 class when it's all said and done. Potentially a top 3 class, depending on the final rankings. Obviously, guys like Jordan Davis, he can rise to a 5-star if he balls out at the Under Armour game, where some of the nation's top high school football players will be. So, it's possible Alabama definitely gets into the top 3, maybe number 2. I still don't think number 1 is feasible at this point. A lot of dominoes will have to fall Alabama's way that I don't expect to happen right now, but top 3 class is definitely a legit possibility for Alabama.
Michael Scott wants to know, who are the biggest surprises you expect to have signed with Alabama that we may not know about today? What's your prediction?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely hard to say right now, just because it seems like Alabama has a clear sense of who it wants to target in this class. When we talk about the defensive line group, it's possible that more names emerge over these next few weeks, just because defensive line is a really, really big question mark right now. I know we mentioned Tyler Friday and Christian Barmore just a few minutes ago, but if those guys decide to go elsewhere, Alabama's going to have to start offering more defensive linemen. I haven't heard anybody on the defensive line right now who Alabama is targeting outside of the names we've already talked about earlier tonight. So that's a question that is hard to answer at this point. But I think a surprise would be at this point, Emory Jones going to Alabama. From all I've heard this past weekend, if he decided to sign with Alabama on Wednesday, I think that would be surprising from what I've heard. But Brenton Cox is out there. I think Georgia is going to land him. If he chooses Alabama, that would definitely be a big surprise, because I know a lot of people close to the Georgia program believe that Brenton Cox will stay in state and play with Georgia. But outside of those guys, I don't really see many major surprises for Alabama on the recruiting trail.
Courtney and Carletta on our Facebook Live say, where's the rest of the defensive ends or defensive tackles? We need them. People leaving for the draft. That position is crucial.
Yeah, we just talked about it. Tyler Friday, Christian Barmore, Alabama's top defensive tackle targets in this class right now. As far as defensive ends, Brenton Cox going to decide on Wednesday at 3 p.m. on ESPNU between Alabama and Georgia. Malik Langham, who we mentioned, in-state kid from the Huntsville area. Andreas Fox, another defensive end from the state of Alabama in Mobile. Those are Alabama's top targets right now on the defensive line. I've said it plenty of times before. Defensive line across the board in the 2018 class, it's really not that talented. It's a down year for defensive linemen. That's why Alabama is still recruiting 4-star defensive tackle Bobby Brown. Alabama got some good news with Bobby Brown actually yesterday. Bobby Brown decided that he's not going to be signing early with Texas A&M. That gives Alabama a few more weeks to recruit him. I know Alabama has definitely been chipping away at Bobby Brown's commitment. Tosh Lupoy has been at Bobby Brown's house what seems like every single week since the contact period began. I know his mother's a very big fan of Tosh Lupoy, who's taken a big time recruiting pitch for Bobby Brown to flip from Texas A&M to Alabama. So we'll see what happens there, but it's definitely good for Alabama that Brown is not signing with Texas A&M early. It gives Alabama a few more weeks.
All right, we'll take a few more questions here. Robert Saucier says, I think there will be some plays designed around Tua. What do you think? And what about Barker? Maybe he's not a scholarship guy, but he's going to be a quality QB.
Yeah, as far as Tua goes, I know a lot of fans haven't been too pleased with Jalen Hurts, especially in the Auburn game. There was definitely some passing deficiencies in that game. It wouldn't be a surprise to see Tua have some packages against Clemson. Lots of time for Alabama to prepare for Clemson, so it wouldn't be a surprise at all to see him get some playing time in that game. But again, Jalen Hurts has been the starter the entire year, and it's very difficult to make a quarterback change when a national championship berth is on the line. You just don't do that. You only do that if there's an injury or something or suspension, and there's none of that right now. So I still expect Jalen Hurts to be the starter. I still expect Jalen Hurts to get the majority of the snaps against Clemson. As far as Barker, yes, he's definitely an option. His father was Jay Barker. Barker has a preferred walk-on offer right now from Alabama. So if Alabama misses on James Foster and Emory Jones, perhaps Alabama goes that route and gets one of these preferred walk-on guys. But right now, Emory Jones and James Foster are Alabama's top quarterback targets.
All right, and our last question from our Facebook Live, Kenny Hoggle says, what about Kenyon Green?
Kenyon Green, a 2019 five-star offensive lineman, committed to LSU. I talked to Green a few months back. He wanted to see how LSU did this season before deciding on anything. And right now, it seems like Green is sticking with LSU. Obviously, with him being a 2019 guy, things can change. I'm planning on speaking with Green in the next few weeks. I'll be in Orlando for the Under Armour All-American game and the Future 50, which is where some of the 50 best high school football players in the 2019 class will compete, and Green will be there. So I'm sure we'll have more on Green in the next few weeks.
All right, we've been talking about it all show. The early signing period begins Wednesday through Friday, December 20th through 22nd. Chris, where can everybody find all of the good information on Alabama recruiting?
Yeah, lots of stuff coming this week across SEC country. Be sure to tune in to SECcountry.com/Alabama, and all of the Alabama recruiting news will be right there.
And if you're just now joining us, when we get off live here, you're going to want to start from the beginning because we had Jordan Davis on. He's the outside linebacker commit from Memphis, Tennessee. He will sign his name this week, and that was such a great interview. So
absolutely,
you guys go back and check that out. And come join us next Monday, 7 o'clock, right here on SEC Country on the Alabama page, because we'll have a full recap of what happened for the early signing period, right?
Yep.
Awesome. It's Chris Kirschner. I'm Hannah Chalker, and like I said, we'll see you right back here next Monday on the Alabama Recruiting Show. Thanks, guys.